Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Let's thank our members, Invictus, Crazy Bucats, and our patrons, Interceptors, Richardson, Danny Cage, and Rupert. Thank you guys, subscribe, and let's get into it. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about an aircraft that I know a lot of people will just completely think that I'm crazy, but it is the F-117. So, we're going to talk about the aircraft itself a little bit, and then if it's ever going to be added, or if it needs to be added, or if there is even a possibility to be added with the performance that it has, right? So it is a stealth aircraft. Everybody knows the F-117. It is the Nighthawk, commonly known as the Nighthawk. It was built in the 80s, introduction in the 80s as well, and it was retired in 2008. So 64 of them were built, 69 of them were production models, and it is basically an aircraft that, even though it has the F on the name, it is more of a bomber, right? The objective of it is to be a stealth bomber. There was some tests done to actually maybe use it as a AWACS killer, but eventually they just removed that idea and they decided to use it just as a bomber, apparently. This comes from a pilot that flew the F-117, the Go 4. And yeah, it uses the General Electric F404, which is funny because it's actually the engine on the F-18, but it doesn't have the, obviously, the afterburners. So yeah, it's kind of a heavy aircraft, to be honest, to the size that it has, but still, the performance of it is not the main thing about this aircraft. On the performance side, first, it is an aircraft that, obviously, it will have a lot of power. So on total, we will have around 80 kilonewtons of power with the two engines, so very powerful. But the max speed is around 1,100 kilometers per hour max, or Mach 0.92. The range, everything else is just normal for an aircraft such as this, 1,700 kilometers of range, and a service ceiling of 14,000 meters. And the thrust to weight of it was 0.4. So the performance of it was kind of lacking in the sense of a fighter. So if you're going to try to use it as a dogfighter or anything like that, it would obviously die very easily. And it is just a crazy aircraft. To be honest, I think it should be an event vehicle. I don't think it should be anything else other than an event vehicle, because it's such a unique vehicle and there were not that many built that we cannot have it any other way, right? It will have the stealth capabilities, as I said. In DCS, I managed to, which is kind of the only test that we can actually do, right? Because a lot of these aircraft were still classified, and there's a lot of things that we are not going to know for sure about an aircraft such as this. But in DCS, I could manage to get a lock on a head-down pass with the MiG-29 at basically 12 to 15 kilometers. So it is very, very hard to detect these targets on a radar. On the heat signature is also very hard to get it. I found it to be like 3 to 4 kilometers to get a proper R-73 shot, and the R-73 is already a very good missile, right? And that was even in a cold aspect, right? So the target was with its engines pointed to me. So yeah, it is a very difficult aircraft to shoot with missiles and to detect in general. It is going to be, I mean, even with the IRST, I had to like be at 4 kilometers at the hot aspect to actually detect the target. So it is very, very hard to detect it. Obviously, it is very easy to kill with the gun. Once you get close and once you see the target, it is very, very easy to see it. But it has these problems of dealing with from far away. So yeah, in a normal IRB match, I don't think it would be very, very effective, especially because the weapons of it doesn't have a cannon, doesn't have anything like that. It only can carry nuclear bombs and the GBUs, so laser guided stuff, and even the JDAM. But in general, it's just 2 bombs. It has 2 pylons in an internal bay, and it is just one of those aircraft that it will not do anything unless it is bombing. For a ground RB, I think it will be more usable because of the laser-guided bombs. But the idea of this aircraft being added is not to be effective. It's just to have fun with it. Nothing... I know a lot of people think that everything in the game needs to have a point in being in the game, right? It needs to be competitive, it needs to be good. But I don't think that's true. I think any of these aircraft that were produced massively, or at least entered in full production, I think they should be added. So I always talk about the MiG-25, for example, that would probably not be the most effective aircraft in a general sense in a normal air RB match, right? But still, it would be very, very cool to see because it is a very iconic aircraft and it would be fun, even though for most people it probably would be a hard aircraft to fly. It would be very, very fun. If you don't want the aircraft, you just don't fly it, right? So the F-117 would be the same. It's an aircraft that would have a lot of problems, especially in its performance. It doesn't have countermeasures apparently as well. It would be a very easy aircraft to kill, but it would be a very hard aircraft to detect. I think another thing that it can do is actually have not that of a high BR, obviously because of the performance of the aircraft, and also have a lower-red kind of spotting system on arcade and RB, right? So if you detect a target from 10 kilometers, let's guess, this target can be half at least, or even more. It could be only 3 kilometers. So you really need to be close to the target to actually detect it on the sense of the game UI, right? Not only in a radar or anything like that. It would be very, very interesting and very fun. And to be honest, even as a Tech 3 vehicle, I think you would have kind of a point to be in. Because if we add the F-111, for example, that's basically it. That's probably going to be the last bomber that we ever get for now. I don't think we're going to get the B-1 or even the B-2. I don't think we're going to get any of these strategic bombers that we normally see in the 50s and 60s. I don't think we will ever see any of these. So I think the F-117 could be fitting on that. Nobody would have a counter to it in the sense of having a similar type of bomber. Only the US. But still, I don't think it's OP. You see the performance, 1,000 kilometers per hour. It doesn't turn very well. It's not supposed to be turning. Thrust weight is bad. Everything about this aircraft is bad. The only thing good is the actual stealthiness of the aircraft, right? And the RCS of the aircraft, remember, the stealth is not just a concept of being invisible to a radar. That's not what stealth is. Stealth is just many different things that an aircraft can be added with equipment, with any type of thing, to actually be harder to see in the skies. And also, especially, having a lower-red radar cross-section, which is basically the size of the aircraft. They're trying to make it so that the aircraft itself is a smaller aircraft for the radar than it is in real life. That makes it so that the radar will just not have the sensitivity to detect a target such as this from such angles and such distances. And with that, it can be very, very effective. Especially bombing, right? It was used in the Gulf War, if I'm not mistaken, and it was very effective at that. It can even do the in-flight refueling. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting aircraft. I understand that it's not an aircraft that everybody will love, but it's such a cool aircraft that I think a lot of people would like to have. But obviously, if it's ever added, I think it needs to be in a limit, especially in RRB. Just due to the numbers. So, for example, if it's an event vehicle, we will see a lot of them being flown. And with that, we probably need a limit of 4 of them each battle, because if all the players of your team are using the F-117, you're basically already lost, right? It's not a very effective aircraft to actually deal with bombing targets or just destroying a lot of targets. They're made to destroy a specific target, a very specific target, or even to deploy a nuclear bomb. So yeah, that was kind of one of the objectives in the 80s, right? To actually deploy a nuclear bomb and destroy the Soviets kind of stealthily. So that was the concept idea behind it, right? So it is an aircraft that I know, a lot of people will not like it, but it would be very, very cool to see. And I think it would be just a very, very interesting idea. As I said, I would prefer it to be an event vehicle than anything else. But anyway, yeah. Let me know in the comments what you think about aircraft such as the F-117. Do you think we actually can have such an aircraft? I know it's kind of a far-fetched kind of thing, but still, it's an aircraft that it's very iconic for the 80s and 90s. It was one of the pinnacles of technology from that time, and of computing power, of calculations, of angles and stuff to actually make the aircraft bounce off the radar radiation. And it's just such a weird, cool looking aircraft that it needs to be in game at some point. Even now, it could be added right now because the performance is not that good anyway, you know. But I would wait until we see more 80s stuff before we get the F-117. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about the Nighthawk, and I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, and bye guys. See ya.